Hi everyone, it's Karen here and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a brand new video tutorial. It's a new art journaling page, how to start an art journal page or how to do an art journal page. And what I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about the other formulas that I have done. This is the fourth video, which means the fourth formula that I've done with the exact same products, which is the soft matte gel from Prima, the modeling paste, and the clear gesso. These are the basic products that you need for mixed media and art journaling. And then I'm using the color bloom sprays. Of course, you can substitute these for other brand of products, but I just wanted to use the same ones for all videos, and I'm linking the videos below in the description area. I just wanted to apologize that this has been a week since I've done my other video. I've been basically almost bedridden with a really bad inflammation and pain in my knee, and I really could not walk and I could not do any art. It was so painful that I actually could not even function. So it took me a while to do this fourth video, and I apologize for that. I just wanted to come back and do it right away because I did the first three videos quite quickly, like one after the other. But I didn't forget about it, and I just want to do the fourth one now. This is my Joggles journal. I want to show you the other art journaling pages that I did. This is for formula number 1. And in this one, if I recall, let's go with that. I did gesso, and then I used modeling paste, sprays, and then the soft gel. Then you have formula number 2, and go back and I can't remember. I have to look it up. Wait, I have it on my phone here, so I'll remind you which one I did. And I'm going to link these below so you know. In formula number 2, I actually used the modeling paste first with a really nice The Crafters Workshop stencil. And this happened to be one of a favorite for everyone. And I really love it myself. The colors are so bold, so it's really nice, and the stencil is nice. So first I used modeling paste, then I applied the gesso, then I put the spray, and finally the gel to glue everything else. And for formula number 3, I actually used the gel first because I used it with some paper underneath. Then I used the gesso, the sprays, and finally the modeling paste, which you can see at the top, and it kind of created that really nice texture. Today's formula, it's very similar to this one, but I'm actually switching I'm switching it around just to show you how it works when you switch the formulas. There's so many different formulas you can do with the same exact products. Really, there's so many. And as you start adding products from mixed media, you tend to start mixing more things and experimenting more. So again, I encourage everybody, always experiment, always have fun, and don't worry about the outcome. Just try your best and try to experiment. And what I like about this journal is that you can take the pages apart, and I'm going to do that and show you again today, and I'll put them back together afterwards. So this is the Joggles disc bound watercolor journal, and I'm just taking 2 pages. You don't have to work with 2 pages. Some people just work with 1 page. I like doing double page layouts. They look like more spread out and cohesive, but you don't have to. You could leave the back blank. A lot of people just do 1 page and leave the other side basically blank, because you see how it gets stained on the other side. So you could do 1 page and then another page and another page and just have the one side blank. Or you could do 1 page on each side and have them different. That's up to you. So I'm going to put this aside, and I have the 2 separate pages here. And what I like about this is that you can use them and apply things without having to work on a bulky journal. So you can remove the pages. These pages are very thick. They're a thick watercolor paper, amazing for mixed media or watercolor, any type of thick mediums that you want to put on them. So for today's formula, the first thing I am going to do is the same thing as last time. I'm going to use the soft matte gel with some tissue paper to create some texture in the background. Then I'm going to use modeling paste, then gesso, and finally the sprays. I will go back a little bit to the soft gel just to put like some of the sentiments at the end. And I wanted to also say something in this, like you can see my nails, I had to cut them off. I didn't even have time to remove my nail polish, so it looks awful, but that's okay. And I actually even cut myself. So today I am going to use gloves because I really want to protect my nail. I have an injury here, so I want to make sure. I think I ripped my nail too far, and so I have a little injury here, so I want to make sure that I don't get it infected or anything like that. So I'm definitely going to use glove, at least on this, in this hand, but you don't have to use gloves. I usually don't use them, but it's nice to sometimes have them handy, and I buy them at the dollar store. I think I buy a package for that. So let's get started with formula number 4. So I gathered some tissue paper and also some napkins. As I said last time, you could use different things to kind of create nice texture in the background. And last time I used the Tim Holtz like tissue paper. This is the one. I'll show you in a second. Everything is dropping. So there was this tissue paper that you could use, so you can go watch that video. I also use this tissue paper. It's a script tissue paper from Canvas Corp. So you can use any tissue paper that you want. You could even use like something. This came out of like I bought this. It's like, it has a nice pattern. It's just really light. It's from like a tissue paper that I use. Like I bought a shirt, and some stores have really nice tissue paper. And then, like I showed last time, you can use napkins. And I thought, you know what? Let me use a napkin today to really show you how cool it can look. And this is a very busy napkin. I just thought it would look really cool on the background. I mean, I know as it is, I'm always trying to experiment and do things. Another thing, sorry, that you could use also in the background, I want to show you before everything falls, is like washi tape. This is really nice washi tape from Dina Wakley. So you could just stick things on. So, but I don't want to complicate things too much. I want to just show you simple, basic mixed media art journaling. And to use a napkin, you know how napkins have different layers? You do need to basically separate the layers. And sometimes that is a challenging task. So I'll try my best. I don't know why I can't separate them, but you're supposed to. Once I separate it, okay, so let me do this off screen, and don't waste your time looking at how I'm doing this. So I'll be right back. And I would not be able to do this with gloves, so it's a good thing that I didn't put them on yet. Oh, there, I see an opening. Never mind. Okay, I did it. I did it. I wonder if there's a second layer as well. Hold on. Because you could save this for something else. I think there might be another layer. Let's just check. Oh, there. I got it. So you see how I'm like separating the nice layer from everything? You want to have just a pattern. Have it as thin as possible. Okay, dokie. Now it's good. So you could save this, or you could throw this, whatever you want with the white stuff. And to use, what you use for this is the gel. And I'm thinking I'm not going to use the whole pattern. First of all, I don't want this strip. I just want the flowers. So I'm going to just rip it. You could just glue it straight. You don't have to rip it like I'm doing. But I really wanted to just include the flowers only. So let me get a straight edge here. So I will get the straight edge here, and you can always cut it around. So here I'm kind of doing it straight, but not exactly. Don't forget I have these grooves that I don't feel like cutting around. So I'm not even going to go around through everything. I'm just going to kind of cut like this. And there's not really a rule how to do this. There, I think like that. It doesn't have to cover it all, because I want to make sure that these are not covered, right? Because then I won't be able to put them back in the album. And let's see the other side. Like this. I don't think I wanted butterflies in it. I'm sure that would look nice. Oh, I could use actually butterflies after and cut them out into the to keep it into my butterfly themed of all 4 formulas. So let me just not use the butterflies now, and I'll cut them off after, and I'll actually cut around them, and you can use them as like center pieces. So yeah, I think this will work. So I am going to grab the soft matte gel and use, like I did before, with my silicone brush. And all you do is really easy, same as the tissue paper. You can just apply it onto the background. Just make sure you get an even coat so you don't get any air bubbles in your underneath your napkin. And again, you can use anything for this. Like, it doesn't have to, you can even use scrapbooking paper. You don't have to use like this. You can use like scrap paper. You know, just make sure it's thin enough. I mean, it could be thick as well, but it's harder to glue thick stuff. I just find it harder. When it's really thin, it glues so nicely on. And this is almost like what we used to do, like decoupage, basically. Doesn't matter if it gets wrinkles or it rips. No, it doesn't matter to me. Because you know what? It's part of the design. It's part of the texture. If you are very careful, you will not get those wrinkles and you will not get rips like I just did here. And that's okay. But I like it. It kind of looks distressed. So all you want to do after that is just seal the paper, because you want to protect it from the mediums that you're going to put on. I would definitely seal the paper. Do not leave it like this. It's too thin, and as you saw, even a tiny little like scratch just makes a huge hole. So you want, the gel actually protects it and seals it, so it will be part of the background. So there we go. There we go. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna cut around it. So I really like that. This is really nice. It's completely different, I guess, than my other designs, but it will kind of tie in with everything else you'll see at the end. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So this is what I mean by experimenting. And I guess I didn't put my gloves on. I should put the glove on. I will when I have to do the sprays. Okay, right now I'm not touching anything, so it's okay. Only this is touching the medium, but sometimes I tend to put my fingers in things. So that's where the problem comes. And just go the other direction if you need to with the silicone brush, just to smooth it out. You don't want any like thick areas. Not that it matters, I guess, but you want to be able to avoid the thick areas. Okay, let me try to line this up so I can get those butterflies, because I only have one of these napkins. I must have seen it and really liked it. Yeah, that will work. Hold on. I need to... Oh, I must have ripped this other butterfly as well. Didn't mean to do that. And just want to seal this. And if the corners after you cut need a little bit more gluing, then you just do that. You just glue. Oh, I just forgot. Sorry. I just realized I glued this right on top where I wasn't supposed to. Hold on. Because I don't feel like cutting this after. Okay, there we go. So I just almost forgot to do that. If you're in a regular journal that doesn't have these openings, then you're good. You don't have to like worry about that. But since I need to keep these in, and this will be kind of like a white space for me, so that's okay. I don't mind it. And you could cover it all and then go and cut it if you really want to. I just don't have the patience for that. I'm a very impatient art journaler, which is not fair. Oosh, look at that. You see, I went too I wasn't careful, and look at the hole that I did by gluing. But that's okay. As I said, it's part of the design. And actually, I don't mind those tears. They look really nice. Okay, so I'm going to dry this up. I am going to then cut around, and then I'll come back once it's all cut. Okay, so I finished drying everything, and I actually cut all around with just regular scissors. So not a big deal. Once it's dry, it's easy to cut off, and I didn't need to show you that on a video. And I'm going to add the stenciling now. And you see how sometimes it lifts here? I just have to add a little bit more glue. I'll do that in a second. I want more gel, I meant to say. But one thing I want to talk about, like this Formula 4, the reason why this one has a Formula 4 and the other ones as 1, 2, and 3 is because I feel like this one is a little bit more involved. It's not as beginners. I mean, it's still a beginner because I'm still using the beginner products. But I think because I added a very busy pattern here, it will show you a little bit more. There's a little bit more layering involved. This one has the most amount of layers because it has the same amount, plus at the end I'm using the gel. I'm using the gel 2 times. So don't be afraid to experiment. This is what I always say. And if you don't have this type of pattern, which you could use a scrapbooking paper, as I said, for this. But if you don't have this type of pattern, it doesn't really matter what pattern you put in the background. You're going to see that I'm going to hide some of this pattern after. And that just helps to kind of bring everything together. But playing around with it and then seeing what you like, you can always use gesso to hide things. So if you don't think it's too intense, which this looks beautiful and so on, but if you think it's something looks too intense, then just go ahead and cover it up and start again. Or don't put the paper and just do the other. You could do just the next step without adding the gel underneath. It's like the other formulas. So you play around with the formulas until you're happy with the result. I'm going to use a stencil from Joggles. I really love this stencil. I was going to use a different one with a pattern, but I really don't want to hide the flowers. So I thought this was a perfect stencil. They look like kind of palm leaves. I will get the name after. I will post it below. I just can't remember what this one is called. And I'm going to use modeling paste. Now, of course, any type of texture of stencil would work for this. You don't have to worry about which type of stencil you're using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of create a nice pattern of leaves in between the flowers. So if you see that there's a flower here, I do not want to cover that flower, so I will just go in between the flower. I'm going to use my modeling paste and again my silicone knife. You see how many uses this silicone knife is good for? Like you could use it for the gel, you could use it for the modeling paste, and with this stencil I have to go against the grain. Just be careful because things tend to lift up, which I think I just made a mistake on it, but that's okay. Okay, let me see how this turned out. You will really not see much of it. Oh no, you will. Never mind. I take that back. You do see a little bit of it. Now I'm gonna use a different leaf and just have to be careful not to smush this other one. So I'm going to use a different leaf over here, and it can stick out a little bit out of the page. So I'm going to use it here and just have to go in the opposite direction. Oh, otherwise it gets caught, which I'm getting stuck on. Hold on. I guess in this case, if you use a little bit more modeling paste, even though I always tell you to use a little bit, but if you use a little bit more modeling paste with something like this, it helps because the little pieces don't get lifted. So that's that. It got a little bit smushed, but that's okay. And then I want to add another one here on the third, and I might cover this flower just because it's kind of purplish. I'm going to go with the red flowers and the orange ones, which are on both sides. So I might hide a little bit of the purple. I'm not sure how it will turn out. You'll see what I mean by hiding. I will be using a little bit of white gesso this time. I know I said I wasn't going to use white gesso, and I showed you in the last formula how the white gesso can hide some areas, but I think I'm going to have to use it here because otherwise it will be too bright. And let me just put this on, and I'm holding it up so it doesn't interfere with the other one. If you don't want to hold it up, I'm used to doing this and it's easy for me, and I don't care if it gets mucked up a little bit. If you don't want to do that, you can dry up in between each leaf application or each stencil. So if you want to add something here and then something on the other side, and you don't want to wait and don't want to like make a mess of it, all you have to do is just dry it in between. So there's that one side. I'm going to move this to the side So that way it's easier for me to work on this other one without mucking the other side. And that's what I like. I've mentioned this before. This is what I love about this stencil, is that you can, not the stencil, sorry, this journal, because you can move the pages around, which is great. I'm going to put a really big leaf here. I have a space here for putting a really big leaf. So I'm going to do that because I want to. And this is the same process. And I realized something. A few people have left messages for me saying that I at the beginning I talk too much, that I'm explaining too much. But to tell you the truth, I feel like that explanation is needed. And if they don't like it, they can just fast forward it. They don't have to watch the beginning of each thing. I do try to explain as much as I can, but I find that if I start making the project without explaining, then first of all, I lose train of thought. And also, like, I can't talk about other things when I'm working. So I need to only talk about what I'm doing, which is, let's say, applying the modeling paste or something else. But if I start talking about other things, I get all confused. I guess I cannot think and work at the same time. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a higher function kind of, thing that people have, but I just can't do it. Now, I want to show you one thing. I'm going to bring the other one back just to show you what I mean. So we know that in any type of composition, whether it's layout or like a project, or even in this case, art journaling, you want to have an odd number of things on the page. So if you just were doing this one page, it has 3, and it kind of brings the focal point to this flower over here. However, I'm thinking of the whole journal as a whole and trying to explain why I could put 3 here as well. But I'm kind of running out of space, number 1. Number 2, I wanted to put this big leaf over here. So I can count odd numbers, including the whole page, and just put a little leaf right here, and that will be that will balance the whole art journal page, if you understand what I mean. So you can count it as 3 and 3, or you could do 5 and then your art journal. You could also do 3 and the whole thing, so you could have put 1 here, and one in the middle. So there's many different ways of balancing an art journal page. I'm just going to move this back. I just wanted to talk about that because it's an important aspect of art journaling. It's an important aspect of art, balancing something. So your eye gets drawn to wherever you're telling the viewers to draw it to. So if you want everybody to focus on a specific focal point, like this flower, for example, you need to draw the eye to that flower. In order to do that, you need to have an odd number of objects drawing it to that focal point, whether it is an arch, whether it is a stenciled area, whether it is an embellishment or anything like that. And as I said, you see I'm talking and I can't like do the paste when I'm talking because I really want to explain what I mean. However, I will put this one down and then I will see if I need a third one on this page, and I will only know once I do it. Because sometimes it's just natural, you kind of see it. And I tell people, and with my students, what I tell people to do is when they don't know, I tell them to close their eyes and then open their eyes right away and tell me the first thing they see. If they see the one focal point that they were talking about, let's say this flower, then you know that you have balanced it properly. So you will not know until you actually kind of close your eyes, unless you've done this for many, many years, and then you're okay, and then you know. So I find that this is okay, but my eye is kind of drawing everything on this to this direction. It's not making me look here. I feel like every time I look at this, and if you want to just literally pause the computer and pause the video for a second and close your eyes and look at here and tell me what's the first thing that you see. The first thing that I see, and I don't want you to get like, I want you to do it. I don't want to tell you the answer because there's not really an answer to this, but this is like a more brain function thing. I'm seeing this page, and this one is kind of not hidden for me. It's not there. So I guess I did not balance it properly. So I do need to anchor something over here. But to do that, I don't want to cover this flower, as I said. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little tiny leaf here. Okay, and I'm going to hold it up like this. And I'll show you what I mean. And then we're going to do the experiment again. The same way. Okay, I added a tiny little one there. Now, do the same thing. Close your eyes and then open them again and tell me what you see. When you open your eyes should focus on basically everything. You will be seeing both pages at once. So I don't know if you notice the difference. I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, you might not notice it at first, but the first time everything was heavy over here and it wasn't balanced. So my eye drew me directly to this one, and this page was kind of in the background, was the second thing that I saw. However, once I added this little anchor here in the back, which made this balance a little bit better, which is what I should have done. So this is where you kind of play with things. You can see that now when I close my eyes and open them right away, I see the whole thing. I don't see only one thing. And I like this. Kind of looks like a wild jungle. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to clean my stencil, let this dry, and then come back in a few minutes. Now that my modeling paste is fully dry, and make sure that you always clean your stencils after you use modeling paste or any type of paste or gesso or any paint. I mean, with paint you don't so much have to, or with spray unless you want to not contaminate next time. But the paste leaves a really thick layer, so you really want to be able to clean your stencils so you can use them next time again. The next layer that I'm going to put is gesso. And as I said, I was going to use clear gesso for all 5 formulas. And I'm going to do that just to show you why clear gesso is so handy. But for this formula, I'm also going to integrate a little bit of the white gesso like I did last time in the last formula. The good thing about clear gesso, or let's start with all gessos in general, they're amazing to prime any type of surface. So in this case, I'm priming paper, so to get it ready for the sprays that I'm going to be using. Now the difference that is there between the clear gesso and the white gesso is obviously in the transparency. White gesso is obviously white and covers, while the clear gesso, it gives you a clear finish. Now the reason why I like using clear gesso for this type of the reason why I said to use clear gesso is just because there was no difference in any of the formulas in terms of using it, because I could use either one and it would work the same. But in this case, one of the things that clear gesso is great for is to be able to prime something that already has a pattern. So for example, as you can see, I'm adding it here, and once it dries, which I'll show you in a couple minutes, once it dries, it will dry clear. So you can see the pattern. So if you do something like scrapbooking or any art journal or anything that uses paper or any surface that you want to show the pattern underneath, like these flowers, for example, or a script pattern like in the other one, all you have to do is use clear gesso. That way, you're not hiding the pattern. The pattern is still there, and all you did is prime the paper so you could use sprays. So here you see me adding this, and I'm going to quickly heat set it so I can show you what I mean about it keeping the pattern in the background. So as this dries, you will see that, I mean, it does look kind of whitish or like milky when you're using it, but when you dry, here I am drying it already, the pattern stays the same. However, it does have that grittiness that the gesso usually has. So when I put the texture, when I put the sprays and the color, it will actually be able to absorb the color. However, one of the things that I wanted to do is I didn't want to have such a busy background. So if you do want to cover certain areas of your art journal, then you can use white gesso, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to take some of my white gesso. This is an Art Basic as well. It's a heavy gesso, so it's quite thick. There's different consistencies of gesso, and you can go watch my video on what is gesso and the different types of gessos and how to use it. But for this case, I like using the thick one because then I only have to give it one coat of gesso. I don't have to like do it a couple times, which is really nice to do. There are liquid gessos out there. They're a bit more liquidy, almost like the consistency of this other one, or even more liquidy than that. And you can just find the gesso that you like and what works for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white gesso and I'm going to use it in certain areas just to hide some of the pattern that I don't want to show in the background. So I love these flowers, for example. So this flower I don't want to cover. But I do want to cover, for example, the stuff behind the leaf because it made it really busy. So this I want to cover a little bit, and it doesn't have to be fully covered, just a little bit. Okay, now if you want to give it less of a cover, all you have to do is just take the white gesso and then mix it with a little bit of water. And what it does, it creates a much liquider, I don't think that's a word, a liquid form of the gesso, and then you can just basically give it more like a whitewash. Excuse me. So you see how it gives it a more of a whitewash instead of a full coverage. And let's say you covered it and you actually don't want it covered so much. You can go ahead and remove some of it while it's still wet, and it will still give you that nice whitewash. So I wanted to cover the pattern behind this, but I didn't want it so dark, so I can go ahead and just add some more of the, wipe it off a little bit. So I'm going to cover it a little bit here and just give this a nice whitewash. That's it. So there I stayed with the focal point. And so much for wearing gloves. I keep on forgetting to put them on. I'm keeping the focal point the way I wanted it, which is this flower, but I'm just whitewashing the rest of the stuff. And I'm leaving the flower quite strong there. Same thing I'm going to do on the other side. I'm going to cover the areas that I don't really want to be seen so strongly. So because I wanted to keep this in the reds and oranges colors, all I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the areas where I didn't want them to be, where I didn't want to show the other colors. So there was some purple there, so I am covering that a bit. And you can just cover other areas as well. There's not really like a rule of what to cover and what not. And as I said, if you make a mistake, you can just go ahead and remove it. The nice thing about this is that once the gesso is there and you want to, and you spray it, you can still remove some of the designs from, sorry, you can still remove some of the spray because the gesso kind of resists it. So there we go. I think this is how I want it. So you see I kind of have these flowers. It's not really balanced. It's more, oh no, it is actually. It's balanced here. I keep on not seeing the bottom of this. So I like that. And I'm just going to dry this up. I'm going to dry it up, and then I'm going to add the sprays, which is my favorite part usually. Just want to add a little bit more here. There we go. And here. Okay, so let me dry this, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, it's dry, and I finally decided to put at least a glove on this hand where I have the little cut on. And I am going to add the sprays. And as you can see what I meant by the white, it kind of covered some of the areas. And if you really want it fully covered, you can add another layer of gesso once you dry the first one. But I'm okay with this. I want to show some of the pattern, but I didn't want to show those strong colors. Now I'm going to spray, and I'm going to use 3 colors. I'm going to use 3 color bloom spray colors, which is the same stuff I've been using before. I'm just switching colors between the layouts just because to just a variety I get bored of the same colors. This is the Spring Dandelion. It's a yellowish color. Then I'm going to use the Brimstone Wings, and finally the Golden Oregano, which is kind of like a greenish color as well. Sorry, so I'm using yellow and green, and I want to start with the lightest color, which is the yellow. And this one is just easy to just apply it everywhere because you barely see anything. It's a very light color. This is actually my last bottle of it. I have to get some more. And what happened is that it's very diluted because I just added more water, even though technically there was not much in there. So you won't see that much of this yellow, really, even after. You might not. And I'm going to mix it with some of the Brimstone Wings, one of my favorite kind of greenish colors. It's beautiful. And you see that red flower still stays there, but I will show you that you can actually use a wipe after to wipe off the excess around the flower, so you don't cover it as much, so the flowers can be kind of pulled out of the background because you have that gesso. So I added the first layer. I do want to add a little bit of the greenish layer, but I want to heat set this a little bit. It's pooling too much and it's too watery, so I'm going to heat set this a little bit just so I can add that second layer. Otherwise everything will just fall everywhere. I mean, will just drip everywhere. I'm lightly heat setting it, and this is a good way of adding layers in terms of technique. So you can add the layer of, let's say, the light color, and then you add the darker color after. So this helps just to kind of put it into place. And I'm going to mix these a little bit. And if you don't like where something is going, as I said before, just wipe it off. So, I mean, I didn't dry it fully at all. I still want it a little bit wet. So when I put the darker color, it will mix with the other green. It's just I find this is too much. Maybe I'll just wipe it off a little bit. Okay, so really I barely dried it. I just wanted to have it in the background. Now I'm going to add a darker green. And for this one, as I've used in the other videos, I want to use a paintbrush for it. And let me just find a clean paintbrush. I'm very bad at keeping my paintbrushes clean. Okay. So I'm going to go to the bottom of this just to get the kind of the dark mica there, and I'm going to add it to the edges of my journal, especially this edge. And once I tilt it a little bit, well, the other green is going. I might hold it like this. I might have to add some more. It's probably not enough. Sometimes you have to add quite a bit in order for it to start moving. Or you could help it with a little bit of water. So there we go. It's starting to drip down. But I don't want it so much to drip as I want it to kind of go flow. So if it's not flowing the way you like it, you can use some kind of trick and direct it to the area that you want. Well, it looks cool. It kind of looks like a wild jungle. This one over here, it's nice, but it's not what I want. But you know what? Let me just let it flow. I'm not going to fix it yet. I can always wipe off if I want to. This is something that I'm not sure if it's going to look good, so let me try. Let me just go with the flow, as I said. It's really important when you're doing art or any art journaling or art to just go with the flow. And because this one has a leaf coming this direction, maybe I'll let it drip in this direction as well. Yes. Okay, that's good. Now I like it better. So you see, I want to kind of drip it in the direction of the leaves. Now, I wanted to mention something really interesting about this, because I've talked about mixing colors and how you should stay with the same family of colors, warm colors or cool colors. Like the green is a cool color, and usually I like using it with blues or with yellows. Yellow kind of fits into both warm and cold somehow. You can mix it with everything because I guess it's kind of a a color that mixes with everything, mixes also with the reds and also mixes with the blues. But if you're going to add a red right now to this, if I went ahead now and added orange and red, I'll end up with a really dark brown. So what happens, you'll get kind of a muddy color, which is not what you want, obviously. Not always. I mean, you might want some brown, but that's not what I want in this design. So the cool thing is, and this is what I wanted to mention, is that in order to avoid that, I added these red napkins underneath, and they look like it's part of the pattern, and I was able to get away with adding red flowers in the middle of a green jungle. So, I mean, you could get away with this with permanent inks, but when you're doing it with sprays or with paints, you need to let it fully dry before you add a color that is not from the same family of colors. So if you do want to add red after this, you need to heat set this really well and even put fixative on it in order for it to work. And I'm going to talk about fixative in a second, but first let me do the other side. So I really like that. I might want to add even some darker green. We'll see what I can find. But first I just want to add the green on this side, and let me move it to be closer and not go across the page like that. So that I don't like. I don't like that one line. Okay. Okay, dokie. So here I know I have a leaf, but the point is that I should lift it this way and then put the leaf on this side. So in the other ones, in the other journals, I tended to put the dark color at the end of the journal, at this edge over here. However, because I have the leaves coming in different direction, I like it better when the drips are coming towards the leaf or going in the direction of the leaf. So sometimes you do have to change directions. You can't always, I guess, go in the same direction as you've gone in other things. And this is why it's so nice to experiment and basically find things that you like to do and how you like to do them. You know what I want? Hold on. I'm going to add some yellow here in the center and have it mixed. I want it lighter in the center. Maybe not so light, maybe a little bit of that light green. Okay, that's good. So that looks really cool. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this and I'm going to add another set of dark colors. And then at the end, I'm going to take a wipe and just wipe off around the flower. So you'll see that it really, actually I could do that right now. Never mind, not at the end. To kind of take away some of that green from around the flower, I can just dab it off. And then you have that flower really sticking out from underneath. You need a clean wipe for that. So the gesso makes it easier for you to do that. And then it's easy to just wipe up the areas that you don't want. And I like this flower as well, so I'm gonna keep it there. There we go. So yeah, I like that. I find that maybe, I don't know, I think I might cover that one back again. If you like it a certain way, you just cover it up. So let me dry this really, really well, and then I'll add a second layer, which is really important to do, is to dry in between the layers, so that way they become darker. So hold on, I'm going to dry this, and I'm also going to remove some of the pooling that is over here. Okay, just want to, okay, that's good. I'm going to dry them. So it's fully dried, and I really love how the pattern is coming out. Wow, I really, really like that. And I'm going to do a second layer with the same color, which is the golden oregano. I'm going to bring this back over here. And again, I'm going to add it. And this time I'm going to basically add it where the leaves are. And, oops, I want it, it's too far away from me. Hold on. I'm going to add it over here. So I want to add it in the area. It just needs to be wet a little bit more. Once you have enough, then it drips nicely. I'm not sure, it's not even dark enough. You know what? Let me introduce a new color. This is the Fir Needles. It's not making it dark enough for me, and I really want it darker. This is a little bit of a different shade of green. I think I used this one last time on something. So let's see if this works. Let me get a wipe here. Too much of here is pulling. Okay, let me go in here with this darker. Oh yes, okay, you see what I mean by that? I wanted a little bit of a darker color to pull around the leaves and at the edges of this. Yeah, I like that much better. Oh yes. And I said, don't worry if it goes over the flower or the pattern. It's not a problem. It can be wiped off. As I said, I don't want stripes. I don't want little drips like that. Let me, you know what you can also do? You can also spray a little bit of water to make this a little bit more watery. That way, when you add the green, it kind of flows. Yeah, okay. I should have done that to begin with. And I did this in the other ones. I don't know why I forgot about this. So you see how it flows and it becomes part of the background. If you can balance this properly and you have a hard time, you could dry and do one leaf at a time. So make this leaf, dry it, and do the other one. I'm just kind of balancing everything, and things might drip in different directions, and that's okay. And let me do this one over here. Okay, so I'm going to add it here. Oh, I forgot the water. Or the other option, if you don't want to wet it with water, you can do a little bit of the lighter green. It will mix really nicely also with the dark green. So I put some of the brimstone wings, and then when I add the darker green, it just flows with it. So I want it to flow in all directions, and here as well. So I'm kind of framing. I always like using the darker colors to frame things. So in that sense, it works out well. Let me add a little bit of water here to kind of make this flow. It's a little bit too perfect. I want it to flow a little bit. Okay, that's good. Let me add a little bit of that lime green, the brimstone wings. And don't worry, as I said about the flowers, that will come off. Yeah, so I really feel it needed that darker color. You can compare, this is beautiful on its own, but I really wanted that darker color to be there. Let me start on this side as well. So I'm going to start with this leaf over here. Again, I forgot. I keep on forgetting to wet this. Maybe I'll just wet the whole thing. That way it will flow everywhere. So the reason why it's pulling here in the middle, it's because my page warped up a little bit. If you want to avoid warping, you can't avoid warping. Let me rephrase that. If you want to fix the warping on a page, you could run it through like a die cutting machine on its own. Just protect it with a couple pages and just put the 2 clear plates on it and just run it through the machine, and it will flatten it up, which is a good way of getting it to flatten up and not be all warped up. I don't worry about that too much. I just, as I said, go with the flow. I like going with the flow. Oh, and I love this color. I think Fir Needles is another favorite. I don't know, I think I have too many favorite colors. This is where the problem comes. When you have too many favorite colors and you don't know what to do about all the favorites. So there we go. Oh, I like this a lot. Just want to help this one a little bit. It's kind of not helped. Okay, there we go. I really like that. I think this one is pulling too much here. I want to kind of move this around a little bit. So I like how this one, I like the framing of this one. I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to pull some of these. There's too much ink on this one. Okay, that's better. So let me just add a little bit more here, just at the edges. Feels like it went in the middle and they forgot to stay some on the side. I want them a little bit in the side and kind of flowing in. That's good. So the rest kind of look good to me. Yes, this looks like a tropical jungle to me. That's basically what I came out of it. And you know what? Go to the dollar store and look for napkins there. If you go to a party and you see a napkin that you like, you know, somebody, let's say you invited somebody, hosted a party, and you see a really napkin. Well, I've put napkins in my purse before. I've put doilies in my purse before when I used to do a lot of scrapbooking, and it was a great way to mat things. So anything can be recycled. So that's the beauty of it. And it's so nice to just do that. Okay, let me close these. So that way they don't get like completely lost. And you see how these leaves are partially like light and partially dark. I really like that. So it just that happened naturally. I didn't plan for that. I didn't know how it was going to come out, but it happened naturally, and that looks really, really good. So the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe off a little bit off the flower carefully. So there is one. So I really want to show that flower, and the same with this one. I really want to show this flower as well. And the nice thing about the wipe is that it kind of takes off not in a perfect square, so it kind of looks like it's part of the design. And look at that. I love this. I actually love it. I can't believe how, like, you know, I didn't even actually know where I was going with this one. I've been like, when I say I was bedridden, I could barely move. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'm really, really excited. I thought to myself whether or not to put the butterflies, as I said before. I actually was trying to see this butterfly. I could cut it out and put it here, but you know what? It's so busy. I'm not going to add butterfly on this one because I think it's going to be too much. I'm just going to add my sentiment right over here. The flowers are perfectly spaced. I don't need to do much to this anymore. It's just done. So I just want to add a sentiment, but let me dry this first because it's just too wet to add anything. So I'm really loving how this turned out. It actually looks to me like hibiscus flowers in between a jungle. I don't know. I really like it. But I guess it's my thing, so I should like it. Anyways, I wanted to talk a little bit about fixatives. I should have mentioned this in the other videos as well. Because these color bloom sprays, and a lot of the sprays, unless they're dye ink, they tend to mix with water, even though after they're heat set. So a good way to fixing them is, well, there's a couple ways of fixing them. One of them is to use hairspray, which is something that most women have around the house, or you can just buy a cheap one somewhere. But something that I'd like to use as well is this, it's called Pixie Dust Fixative. This is the Prima one, and it comes in a powder. This is a brand new one. I'm going to show you how it works. And you could use it to fix any type of medium that does not fix on its own. That basically reacts with things afterwards. I'm going to mix it with water. This is just water. Okay, and then I'll just shake it. And remember, when you're shaking any type of spray, no matter which one it is, even if it's fixative, which is a clear color, always shake side to side. Don't shake up and down because they will clog inside the spout. So you want to shake this as much as you can to get all the powder out. And then what I'm going to do is it's just kind of milky water, but it's fixative. Now, these sprays do have some fixative in them, but not fully. So I do want to add some more into it. So you see, it just kind of has that milkiness in there. Oh, and let me remove, it has like a little thing that stops it from spraying. So now this will wet everything again, and that's okay. Hold on. It hasn't caught on to the spray yet. And a good thing, once you're done using your bottles, you can reuse them and make your own inks with it. Okay, now it's spraying. Okay, so I just kind of spray everywhere. You want to cover everything so it fixes the ink in the background, the mica. And then of course you have to dry this, because you see how it's still mixing with things, but it will just, it doesn't like make them move everywhere. It just fixes them wherever they are. So let me dry this again. I'm going to dry this point, I'm going to dry this part, and then I'm going to add my sentiment. I wanted to remove a little bit also of the ink above the pattern of the leaves to kind of bring that nice modeling paste out. So you can just grab a little wipe and just remove a little bit of it. And it just really makes it stick out, which is really nice. So I haven't dried this all fully. That way I can still remove some of it, because once it's dry with the fixative, I won't be able to do this anymore. Well, I really like that. So it just brings out that nice pattern to the surface. The last thing I want to do is just add a sentiment, and this is one of the tissue paper sentiments that I've used before. This is from the Dina Wakley Media Collage Words, and all I want to do is just cut a little piece out of it. I picked already the one I wanted. I want to say it's art grows your spirit. So I need to kind of go around it and cut around it without cutting the gloves. How am I going to do that? So there's a really nice sayings in all the tissue paper, and you can just pick the one you want, and it's perfect for art journaling. I really love these. Just very simple, and I'm going to actually cut it in half to split it up basically. Okay, so because it looks more balanced that way. Oops, let go of it. Okay, so then all I do is just use, oh, I can't speak anymore. I think I'm hungry. It's lunchtime. All I do is use the gel medium again. And as I said, I could have used the gel medium to glue the butterfly if I wanted, or anything else. But I'm just going to use it to glue the little saying here. I could add small butterflies. I didn't think of that. I could technically go and add some smaller butterflies, but I think I like it the way it is. I don't know if I want to change anything or add anything except for the sentiment. So there we go. Art grows. So hard work with gloves. You see how now like the color in the background is fixed and it's not coming on top of my words. I should have fixed it in the other ones as well, but I forgot. And besides the fixative, which I'm going to link as well below, the other thing that I'm going to link is a wax from Dorland, and that one you can add. It's a little wax that you add on top, and that way these pages also will not stick to each other over time. The last thing I want to do is just stick these back into my journal, and look how easy it is to do this. So I just go ahead and stick these back right in. They pop in so nicely inside, very easily. Hold on, very easy. As I'm saying this, maybe I'll just do it backwards. It's easier for me. So I'm just a right-handed, so it's easier doing it the other way around, and then you just pop it back up. So there it is, my journal formula number 4. And stay tuned for the next one, which is formula number 5. I'm listing all the videos links below of the first few formulas, plus some other beginner mixed media videos if you want to watch. And now it's fully dry, so it's not even sticky or anything, which is great. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked my video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, please, on social media. I really appreciate you coming and watching all my videos, and please share it on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, wherever you want. The more you share, the better it is for all of us, because we need to support each other in this community. Thank you so, so much. And if you got inspired by something I created, please share it with me. I've had people share it even not publicly, like in Messenger. You can share it publicly, whichever one. But if you don't want to share it in public, share it in Facebook Messenger or anywhere you want, and just share what you created. Thank you so, so much, and have an amazing day. Bye.